Sometimes things aren't hard. What an idea. Yeah, cool. All right. Do any of you mind just looking on YouTube to make sure the audio is working?
YouTube?
Yeah, it's live streaming to YouTube.
I see.
We've got 2 people watching on YouTube. And we have... Do we have anybody in our... Oh yeah, we've got 2 in audience on Discord.
Audio sounds fine.
What'd you say? Is audio working?
Yeah, it is. My own voice is pretty quiet though.
Yeah. That's kind of typical though, Mary. I'll turn you up. Okay.
Is it quiet for you anyway?
Yeah, it's always really quiet. I've learned to kind of read the Mary body language to know if you're talking, because you usually twitch a little bit when you speak. I'm a little worried about streaming this to Discord, because I'm wondering if people are going to be like, oh, I want to spectate. I don't want to opinionate. But we'll see. Good to have participants in every level. Cool. We got 4 people watching.
Scott is on Discord.
I know. I'll have to pull him in. Who else is RSVP'd to this today? We need to send some notifications. Let's see. Gubsy and Ray. Send. Gubsy. Ray. Oh. I don't know if it's Rayman. Let's see. We gotta get at least 1 more to do this. 3 or more perspectives. Does that make sense why I have that rule?
Which rule?
Of 3 or more people to be present for an event to go forward?
I think definitely for an event like this, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But pretty much all events, basically there's no circle without 3 or more. And for the facilitator, being part of the group is something that they're teaching and is a really good thing to do. But it also can be, it's a lot more work to be continually part of the group and also holding the container of the group. And so it's to kind of protect the emotional labor of the facilitators of the event, including my own emotional labor. But we'll see who we get. There's so many things happening in the world. People just might be out for the count.
We got Gupsy and Kyle.
Oh yeah, Carl also. We'll see. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, and if not, we will consider this a dry run and try again next week. With apologies and gratitude.
I still think there shouldn't be a neutral line.
Well, this is where you start out, right? If you don't have a neutral line, then you're always in a polarity. So it's kind of like
No, because you can start out in a void. It's the part before the question. You're not on a line.
the neutral is the void. That is the liminal space. It's the place of I'm evaluating, but I'm not embodying a response. Maybe it needs to be a different word, but at least in science measurements.
Could make it a different color line.
What color should it be?
Something like deep, maybe a blue, space blue.
When we get a world builder to build this, so I don't have to draw it every time, done. We can make that a different color. We could actually make all the colors kind of a spectrum, like a rainbow, which would more embody this.
I don't know. In that case, I'd say maybe the neutral line should be a dashed line.
Okay. Interesting. You want people to get off the middle and know that they can't sit there. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a different space than the others. So
yeah.
It needs a different line.
Totally. Well, not seeing any responses, so this might be a hello and a goodbye. And, thank you all for being in the emotional labor of the pain points of event woes. We're continuing to talk about how to improve this flow every day. And maybe we should give people a class when enough people don't come and just share the Miro board and explain to people how many paper cuts they are experiencing that keep them from probably RSVPing. Thinking of more and more every day.
Plus, I feel like those who have RSVP'd, I'm curious. Are they busy? Did they forget?
Right. What keeps them from coming when they? Yeah. Yeah. I also think this is something we haven't talked about, but I think that Discord is, it struggles. It's entertainment, kind of escapist in its nature, right? It's like, have fun and do the thing that's happening right now. And it's just very free commerce-y. And it doesn't have that kind of vibe of real flesh human beings are working to make a space for you. You're not going to have to pay for it, but you can. This is partly why I think we were talking about gamifying bridge makers, because that idea of earning points can be very motivating.
But is it motivating in the right way? That's the question.
Is it the right way if it builds the habit in people so they become more accountable in their life? Maybe that should be one of our statements, is bridge makers. Gamifying bridge makers.
My response to that is, how come you're not still playing the melon game?
The melon game. Well, that had no meaning to it. This has meaning to it.
It does, but the motivator doesn't, if it's just to get points or whatever.
What do you think, Lau? Should we gamify bridge makers? Because the points would technically, potentially, lend towards access to things.
Cross out number one here and make that the new number one.
It really should be.
All right.
We should. So
gamify.
The statement would be gamification of bridge makers.
What do you think?
Do I get to get on the spectrum too? Because.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to be both. See, this is why I don't let events go. Okay. So people are going to be confused by this. So I'm going to take off the picture. that at least they're not looking at a picture that is incorrect. And yeah, so the statement would be bridge makers should become gamified to increase motivation.
Agree on the left, disagree on the right.
Yes. And so when we say 1, 2, 3, Lau, do you have one that you're going to jump on?
I'm still considering. It's quite
Thinking about it. Okay. We'll let you
complete guide.
we'll let you contemplate. We're going on the fly here and
I
not
think I have
talking
one
about.
answer.
Okay. All right. So 1, 2, 3, and then we jump to the line. 1, 2, 3. Jump to the line. Oh wow. Oh my. Okay. So let's talk about this. Why? I need to actually figure out why Lau disagrees that bridge makers should be gamified. Lau disagrees that bridge makers should be gamified because it cheapens the meaningful parts of the process, and gamers are not going to really participate effectively in bridge makers content anyways. Did I get it?
A bit like it was close, but
Close.
somehow
Okay.
it turned.
Let me
Yeah.
try. Let me see what else. Gamification is manipulative.
Not really.
No, that's not. Okay, so I had 2 guesses to try to guess why you think bridge makers should not be gamified. What did I miss?
So like shouldn't be gamified. You say like cheapens the experience because people won't join the event other than the games. I mean, yeah, right. That's a point, but for myself, it's more of a educating platform, and it's more of a server to let the community leaders to share about their opinions, their experience. So like gamified it could be an idea, but
Oh, okay.
it would lead to a lot of it's a risky move.
It's a
in my
risky
opinion.
move. Okay. And so when you hear gamification, you think that it's going to be like we're going to go to game worlds and play games to increase the fun factor? Or what do you think when you hear the word gamified?
Yeah, that's about it. Like we are gonna make more chill hangouts or make more
Oh,
games related
gotcha.
to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this clarifies that maybe we should define what gamification means. But yeah, I think we're not going to get very far if we don't. So gamification means for coming into an event that you've RSVP'd for, let's say you would get, so first, if you RSVP'd for an event, you would get 2 points. And if you came to the event you RSVP'd for, you would get 5 points. And so it's basically rewarding you for being accountable to your agreement and behavior, and for also like participating. And when you got a certain number of points, you might get a t-shirt, meme or something, or you would get access to some kind of avatar, or you would get to participate in a collaborative project or become a helper. It's basically incentivizing people to say, hey, when you contribute and you're part of the rhythm for X amount of time, you can actually you're going to be recognized for that. We're tracking that.
So we are
Yeah.
focusing on the activity, like trying to make the members active.
Yeah, and
more responsibility.
It's kind of like grading, but without the punitive thing. You're not going to get a C or a D or an F. You're just going to be prioritized if you're participating in a way that is actually building the bridge. you're getting credit for the points you're adding to the bridge. That's what I mean by
I see the idea now.
gamification. Yeah. Does that change your answer or anybody's answer? Not Mary's. Mary's on slightly disagree. And does it change your answer, Lau?
Slightly. Yeah, it does.
Okay. Do you want to move to the line you're actually feeling? Oh, no.
So hard.
Going to neutral? Okay. I neutralized him
Yeah.
without meaning to. So you're definitely not for it, it sounds like. You're not feeling it as a yes.
Yeah, it's not like a yes, but it's not like a no. Let's see the opinions, the others.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, so Mary, now you're on the opposite end with the two things that I offered, the manipulative and the like, it'll bring the wrong crowd. Did I get your argument at all?
They're both valid points. They're not the main reason. Well, let me think about it. Getting the wrong crowd, does that count? It's not exactly how I'd put it. I'm not entirely sure if it is the reasoning that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
So I'll say no for now.
Okay. No for now. What did I miss?
It's sort of a distraction is one point. It's like it has its own motivation, and then when that's accomplished, then the motivation is lost. And there can be kind of a negating effect in which once that motivation is lost, there's an urge to move on to something else. And that needs to be fulfilled by something else that is gamified.
So this goes with the idea of intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. And you're saying the extrinsic motivation reduces, hey, welcome. It's dyslexic.
Hello, completely forgot what was happening. So I decided to try to write before the end of the event.
Hey, look at that.
That's all right.
So we're going off script here a little bit because we didn't have 3 or more. We almost canceled it for today. But just so you know, this event is being live streamed, and we're encouraging everybody to take on opinions of perspectives that you don't even necessarily have as your personal opinion. This is just about like learning what those opinions are and taking those perspectives to represent for people who might be watching, but not necessarily participating, so we can share a whole gradient. And the one that we're talking about right now is, should we gamify our community at Bridgemakers to increase participation and accountability? And Mary is taking the slightly disagree, whereas Lau is on the neutral stance. Because Mary is saying that the extrinsic motivation of gamifying is likely, maybe in the short term, to increase activity and participation, but in the long term could actually make people less motivated to keep learning or participating. Did I get that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you are on slightly disagree as opposed to disagree or strongly disagree, because this is not a big blocker for you, but your gut is twinging. This is not a good idea.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there's a way to do it that avoids that situation happening, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. So.
Right. Yeah. And we've been thinking about this for a month or two now. And so partly we're not coming up with other options so far. So because we are just in the early part of this dyslexic, do you want to take a line and be on a polarity? Or are you going to be on neutral?
You see, with stuff like this, I don't. I'm gonna just say neutral because it's such gamify such a broad thing. It depends on the implementation. That's my stance, at least. So
let's pretend it was
really
the kind of implementation that you think would work.
Like, yeah, it's assuming.
Let's go with you like.
You see, the problem is I don't know how. I don't know how you would gamify it. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, okay. You missed that.
I've seen other communities gamify themselves.
Yeah. So what we were talking about is something really simple, like giving people points. If you RSVP, you get 2 points. If you RSVP and come to the event, you get 4 points, or whatever. And so it's basically like demonstrating for people, like you're creating a pattern of relationship with us, and as you gather those points, that can be spent. Those points can be spent towards like certificates or access to exclusive events or support with world building or community building, those kinds of things. It's an exchange of sorts.
You know what? I should have a chat with you about the 4 archetypes of virtual world players.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because... Oh...
Uh-oh. Slightly disagree.
I'll let you go first, and then I'll speak.
Okay. Go, Mary.
Just to finish that particular thought, so talking about like earning points and being able to unlock things, that is only one of the 4 archetypes, and that is the achiever. There are other gamification motivations that you can use like that might be worth exploring.
Okay.
So to play on curiosity a bit, there's the explorer archetype, and the explorer wants to learn how something works. And so by creating mystery, allowing a space for intrigue and curiosity, that can, like, it has nothing to do with score or earning things. It's just having a bit of mystique. For example, a lot of RPGs use this for the narrative of this plot of the game.
Yeah. Leaving things open-ended where you can fill in the blanks and you can kind of project your own experience to blend it with the environment or the story or whatever. Yeah, lovely. And so you're staying on slightly disagree, even though you're adding more good reasons in this opinion over here to gamify Bridgemakers.
I haven't thought whether to move or not.
Okay, gotcha. So Lau moved from slightly disagree to neutral once he heard my definition for apparently the achiever archetype, but now Mary has added an additional one for my agree, which is the explorer archetype. We could really incentivize exploration and design it for cohesive narrative experience, as opposed to just kind of getting lost and paper cutted until they don't even try to look at our server anymore. Okay, so thank you for adding. I'm actually leaning towards strongly agree now. Maybe if you give me the other archetypes, I'm going to make a whole other line that is like super duper, absolutely agree. All right, but we'll hear from dyslexic now. Dyslexic, why do you slightly?
I mean, I was just listening. I was listening there. I mean, so I've seen some communities do types of gamification of it. I've not seen the point one yet. But a common thing that I tend to see, at least, is what's the minimum level of engagement? And if that's like the first major thing, is because you gamify something doesn't necessarily always mean that something inherently becomes more engaging. Like, it's more important to have engaged people in a activity rather than people there to earn points, you know? I've had some experience with this with the prefabs community, with prefabs with a contributor system, where it's like a higher rank. It's like, oh look, you could do more stuff in the server now because you've helped contribute to our public asset database. But the problem, what ends up happening is people end up just doing what the minimum amount of effort is. Now, obviously, it's very different, but I would actually probably say I'm moving more to neutral. It's something that I think is very important, especially to drive engagement, but it needs to be done very carefully. Because you do it the wrong way, and people will either get burnt out or not really engage, or a form of elitism begins where the people who can't make it to events, say for example you host all of your events in American time zones, and a Asian user or a European user can't attend, well then they won't be able to get any of those points, or they won't be able to engage with the community in the way that the game system rewards them in. So it's something it's very, as I said, I'm probably going over to neutral.
Well, but, so that's interesting, because I think what you're doing
it's a careful balance.
Is you're describing pieces we would need your voice and other people's voices who have seen this. This isn't just for bridge makers, by the way. Bridge makers is like a stage. You know, there's a bridge between where it is and where we want it to be. And this is a stage where we're reflecting a core value of transparency. And we're actually gamifying ourselves to make that journey accessible to everybody and lend in their ideas and their experiments to tweak it and collaboratively make it work. So it's less about like experimenting on anybody, and it's more about experimenting with and documenting that journey as we go. And so those are really good points. And when you say that, I think, well, this is partly why we're live streaming today, because we don't have the video editors to go through all the videos I keep taking and actually pull out the really golden nugget snippets of what we're learning. But what we could do, hypothetically, just keep it simple in this case, is let's say you didn't RSVP because you couldn't come, but you go and watch that live stream later and you see that there's a link that says, would you like to participate in our gamification system or whatever? Put a comment below on what you got out of this event and what you would want to see in the next one, kind of giving it more than just a reaction, but as if you were still in the event participating. Go ahead and put a comment and a question or an idea of what you would contribute, and you're going to get a point or half a point or whatever. So making some level where people can still catch up later and participate. And I think these are the details where, hey, I, amongst most, I mean, if you know me at all, I don't do very much gaming ever, right? Gaming hasn't worked for me to motivate me in the world. I'm the least proselytizer of gamification because I think there's a huge gap between having fun and actually it being a transformative experience in a healthy and intentional way. And so that's my curiosity is, could we bridge that gap a little bit and not make it about a hierarchy of elitism, but make it about a demonstration of who resonates the most with Bridgemakers' content and events and efforts because they're actually contributing in a meaningful way. That would be the idea around gamification. Right now, it's just all kind of like you wander in, you show up, you say something, you wander out, and that is the overall culture of social VR. But there's also a lot of opportunity to grow deeper rooted relationships in here that I don't see a lot of communities really practicing and making a transparent process on how to do that. If we don't make the process transparent, what we do is we make it look like a clique or a cult. Everybody who comes to these events are kind of just vibing together, but we don't know why. We don't know how they got to vibe together like that. What skills and steps did they take? How many events did they attend to get to the point where it's so fluid? And then there's a path for me to feel the vibe with everybody. But I can realize I'm not going to vibe with people for the first 5 events or the 8 events. It takes time to kind of get a feel for how people respond. So thank you. And your opinions really matter here. Without your opinions, then it's just an idea that will definitely not work. Okay. I think you all are hearing my reasoning. We've kind of gone off script a little bit here. But this is what happens when your facilitator is down on the lines and has passionate ideas. So does anybody have any other guesses why I'm on this line? We've done your line. We're going to do my line. Why am I over here? Wow. Dyslexic. Mary. Oh, yes, Mary. Thank you for raising your hand.
Using something, using like a hook to get people to take the first step, which can often be the hardest step, and to, as I think you already mentioned, start that habit or routine in participation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of it, definitely. What else? Any other ideas on why I would be over on agree?
I'll be honest, I'm not too sure myself. I probably would line up with Mare here or whatever, but
You are lined up with Mary, so that works out. Yeah. Well, so this part of the exercise dyslexic is actually to try on each other's viewpoints. So I was actually trying on.
I'm trying to put myself in.
Yeah, so we're putting in each other's shoes.
I can't think of anything, you see.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Loud, you got
anything? My brain's just blank, I'll be honest.
That's okay.
No, I have no idea on like agreeing on this.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. So neutral for you just means like hands up, I don't know kind of thing. There's just no energy or juice.
Up, no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it's complicated.
Yeah. Hard to be passionate about that. I mean, you know, and I think for you all, we could take it off of bridge makers and just make it about communities should gamify. So that it's less about having an opinion about a group you maybe don't feel involved enough to have an opinion about, and just really making an opinion about your community. Should they gamify? And why or why not?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll be honest, I'm like half dementia patient at this point, I swear. I've kind of forgotten about some things people have said, but anyway, okay. I guess it is inherently true that gamification does drive engagement. So I can very clearly see that you could be over there just on the fact that engagement would be much higher, and that it could also be more enjoyable for the users overall, as they feel like they're actually getting something back from the gaming, or the gamified version of it. But
yeah, I love that. I think it's that, like, I'm not asking people to pay for this yet or at all right now, right? And so where does the bridge happen? I'm pouring out all these events. Lama and I work on this more than full time every week. Where does the bridge happen where people can count and realize I am way participating in this bridge? I am adding points all these different ways. And so what can happen emotionally is people start to feel guilty and they start to avoid the experience because they feel that generosity, they feel the value, and they take it away, but they don't necessarily know, how am I building equity there? How am I actually investing back in? Am I contributing? Like, even some of our core contributors to this community have said repeatedly, I don't know if I'm doing enough or even really what I'm doing. And to me, that reflects a lack of transparency on the contribution end of things. And to me, gamification is a way to show you contributed. And we are tracking that, and it's all out in the open, and we're celebrating that contribution. Yeah. So it's really just about, we're kind of in a flatline a bit with our community right now as far as engagement. People kind of estimated it was holiday related, and now it's looking like it wasn't. And so it's, how do we build engagement and recruit and really get that blood pumping again? And so while I hear there's a lot of burns around gamification, the question is, like, if there's no other ideas, then we're just kind of a little bit of a bridge built here, and then big empty space.
Is it okay if I move a little?
Do what? Move?
Can I move?
Yeah, well, I was about to say that the last part of this conversation is to actually, to invite people to not be on neutral, but take a stand from all the arguments that you have heard here. Even if you're just applying it. Yeah, I think so, unless there's more to say.
Okay.
So, hey, look at that. We've got some slightly agrees. Oh my gosh. And Lau is going over to disagree. So Lau, I'm curious what changed your mind from neutral to disagree.
So that the base idea is that this is like the motivation of it is one, of course, and the another point is that people people would do everything for just a little stuff, whatever they feel. That there's gonna be some extreme people that's gonna attend every event, even though they are not learning anything. They're just there. They are earning the game's rewards just for the rewards, whatever. That might make people lose focus. But also another thing is the complexity of the community. It's gonna make some tough time for new users. Like they just let's be honest. This server, the server concept is very unique. I have never seen anyone did it before, and it takes some time to catch up. Like I already am a new user to maybe to VR chat, or even though I'm not new user to VR chat, I'm new to this kind of group. It takes time to catch up. If you add a game system or whatever, it may make it more complex, and it's hard to understand, which leads to frustration in the end.
So the transparency could become overwhelming. So that you're expressing a value of, it would need to be simple, and maybe even Mary's been talking a lot lately about the concept of opting in. There could be an opt-in function that newbies aren't part of the gamification system, but people that are working towards membership, where they're actually like,
towards helper, like they want to contribute something, they want to help moderation, or they want to become a helper, anything. They could be like that. It's like a baseline. Maybe you have to get like a 50 points, or maybe 10 events. That could work.
Okay. So does that sway you if you think of that idea? Are you now on the other side here? Or are you going to stick it out on disagree? Yeah? Okay.
I would stick to disagree, I think.
Okay, you're still going to hold your ground. I support that. Okay, and maybe if we heard from Mary's other archetypes, you would find yourself in it. And I think that's the piece, right? It's like the people who are saying, no, I don't like that. So far, what I have proposed doesn't fit you. But it doesn't mean the concept of gamification can't fit you. You can represent a persona of somebody that what we've said so far doesn't reach. So then how do we reach you also? And what would that journey be? I'm curious what made Dyslexic and Mary move lines.
For me, it's kind of my own thought of, wait a minute, there's more than just achievement. There's exploration, which is founded in curiosity. There's the other archetypes. One is social, so finding friends. And the fourth one is griefing. or being a troll. And having a space that allows people to do that, well, without it being bad blood.
So, bridge shaker play of sorts, where
Yeah.
come in and be gamified and rewarded and being a contrarian. Just being like, hey, bridge makers, you suck for like how you require RSVPs or cancel events or whatever. Like, you can bring that in and get points for that.
An example of that, some streamers have a kind of gamble system, which sounds bad, but it's like the gambling just numbers. It's not, they're not worth anything. But basically, you can play dice with a bot, and then the griefing comes in because you can choose to duel another player with a bet. And so whoever wins the duel in dice gets the pot. Mm-hmm. And so there's the ability to kind of pick on someone else, but in a way that doesn't really hurt them.
I wonder how we would implement something like that with bridge makers. You get the whole bridge instead of the whole pot, somehow. You run bridge makers for a day. I don't know if that's a reward. But yeah, I love that. I think there's something about the trickster energy and making that an entire archetype that maybe you can win becoming that archetype if you do the other three first. Mm.
I bet Carl would be a fan of that one.
I bet Carl would be a big fan of that. I'm sure there's quite a few people that would bring their inner trolls out and be like, it's my turn. Cool. What made you change over to this line, Dyslexic? To mildly.
First of all, can I just say, whenever you said gambling, I just imagined the bridge maker's slot machine. That's why I laughed.
When you get three bridges, something amazing happens. Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Anyway, no, I mean, it was kind of more like trying to justify with why you set yourself on the agree side made me realize that it was rather like I'm for the idea of gamification. It's something I deem to be you have to be very careful with. Mm-hmm. It's like I think gamification is useful, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those things you do have to heed it with some caution. Hence why I'm on the slightly agree rather than the strongly agree.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But,
so you're
just trying to justify myself with you. It's or trying to justify why you were on that line actually kind of made me go,
pulled you over.
Because, I mean, I'm trying to do it right now in my community, so...
Look at that.
I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I said, don't do it.
yeah, but we're going to do it, right? And so that's, I think, the piece is, the piece that didn't get named super clearly by me, but I'm sure to some degree you can all feel it in my voice and my emotionality, which is always very honest and transparent, but sometimes can feel kind of heavy or intense, is that as a leader with this, it's an experiment to do bridge makers. Every community I've built is an experiment to see how I can be of supportive and utilize my skill set in a way that affects and supports the most people. And you can probably hear it. I'm definitely dragging when there's low turnout and I'm the one that's having to cancel the events and all of that. It's a really tough thing for me, especially day after day and week after week. And so we're troubleshooting this and problem solving it and learning a lot along the way. But this definitely feels like that moment when the plane is like not going fast enough or going too angled down. And it's like, are we going to pull out before we hit the ground? Or maybe there's a better metaphor. Are we going to go under before we get our sails up, so to speak? But I'm over here really trying to this is out of my comfort zone. I really don't know what I'm talking about when I say gamify. But I do believe that the content that we're focusing on can feel too serious for some people. And they didn't necessarily build communities because they wanted to have really serious conversations or really intense, like, focus. They built communities because they wanted to feel joy and contentment and safe and whatever. And so in my mind, just adding the word gamification is reminding myself, how do we bring playfulness to this and silliness and delight? How do we delight when it's de heavy? Because it's a de heavy for me right now. And we need more lightness and we need more play. I also think there could be a really beautiful piece about like being generous with our points and our participation. And so how do we not make it a pyramid, but make it a donut, a torus, where those points then start to be given to other people that have been earned, and that allows a whole other level of the journey. So that it's not about greed or ego, it's about privilege and generosity. And
could be just to throw an idea in. It could be like a heart roll, and you earn it if someone gives you appreciation who has one.
I love that.
And then they lose theirs, and so they need to receive appreciation again.
They're
but
giving the heart.
It will filter. And it will filter down from like you or Molly, who can give heart rolls for free.
I love that. And then basically, like, if you don't keep that heart roll going, then it dies with you. Yeah. So, pieces where we're watching the lines and we're watching how it grows the garden of this community and how we add back. How does Bridgemakers add back to your community? How do you want it to add to your community? That's just a whole other area that if I actually was being paid to do this full time, I would be exploring much more in depth. How do I actually create like some kind of consulting packages or journeys for community leaders that are already full time in their own community systems, but would love to have a consultant come in and support and do some events and assessments and whatever. I've got 2 communities who are interested in that, but I'm just completely flattened with all the other requirements I'm doing. So that's just another piece. Is Bridgemakers is trying to put up this little island and be like, hey, we're here. Let's build bridges for other communities and kind of a central hub. But also, how do we go over to those other communities and build that direction too? Like from those directions. One of my dreams or fantasies is that someday Bridgemakers will put out like super community member agents who go into communities and kind of assess from within on what that community needs the most. And then a plan is made, and that community is just like gardened and cultivated from the ground up without them necessarily even knowing. And they grow their values kind of organically with these wise people coming in and helping grow it until they can kind of fade out without ever being caught in the strategy that they're doing, but just really helping like infuse the nutrients into community systems. So that would be the goal. But for today, I think we are, I don't know if we should just wait on these 3 questions for next week. And maybe that'll reset it for people to be able to see this. The other thing is if we had people adopting events and saying, hey, I will help grow engagement and discussions and whatever for this event. And we had people just like taking those roles that aren't a ton of work. I mean, that could be a half hour of your week or whatever, but that could help administrators that are juggling way too many things, like know that somebody is nurturing that conversation. So it's not just a reminder on your calendar. You actually know what's coming up. Maybe you've contributed a question. So cake is bread, not pastry, is from Sodalo, who was just dropped in on a impromptu world testing experience the other day. And evolution is a fact is from Mary. And so that's just another piece about this, that next week maybe we can explore these more. These are not about Mary necessarily being really solid on evolution as a fact, but it's about allowing us to look at the spectrum of opinions on these things that are kind of universally, there's a popular idea of what it is. Yeah. Does anybody here also have other ideas of what could be our next controversial statement?
Nothing that comes straight to mind.
No? Okay. Well, if you do, there's a chat in Bridgemakers now dedicated just to this event. It's not going to be a new thread every time. And so you can put your questions there if you got any value out of this today.
I've got a tier 4 one.
Oh, tier 4. Wow. What's the tier 4 one? Next level.
We should have immigrants welcomed.
Welcome immigrants. Ah, that's lovely. Yeah. Yeah, the
it's
idea...
very topical at the moment.
I bet. Exactly. So the idea is that these work up to the most intense topic, right? And so the third or fourth one would be something that's like a relevant world issue that's happening right now. So that's relevant for not just the United States, but also I think the UK and many places.
The entirety of Europe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not just us, don't worry.
So let's put that as a number 3 next week.
Okay.
And
what is the current number 3?
Number 3 to today was people should be allowed to remain anonymous in virtual spaces. And that feels actually more like a number 2, so I'll probably bump that to 2 weeks out. And number 3 normally should be kind of reserved for hot issues that are going to be uncomfortable to talk about. And so, yeah, if you do think of any others, please put them in the chat. This is not like Hayu is secretly experimenting with her own opinions on things. Yes, number 3 should be fire. Maybe we should have that as a little emoji. That is the fire version. And I will look forward to the debate on cake is bread, not pastry, because that's going to be a riotous one. But yeah, thank you for coming, Dyslexic. And did anybody learn anything today, or was this valuable? Or if not, please share. This is Mary is nodding.
Gave me some things to think about regarding gamification.
Okay. Such as?
How I can apply the other archetypes besides just achiever.
So this was something you kind of came into awareness of, as you were having an allergic response to just the achievement-based concept of gamification. And now you're like, wait, there is more. Okay, you got that. Awesome. Anyone else?
I need to think more about how to do gamification within communities effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because any instance I've seen of it has not gone well, so...
Really? So you've never seen a community
I've never seen it go
gamified
well. But it does inherently drive engagement.
So what do you feel like is, if it's driving engagement, how does it, you're saying it still doesn't go well? Is that because it becomes a hierarchy, or?
The instances I've seen is it became a hierarchy, for sure. But I mean, that comes down to the fact that the way it was handled it allowed for the minimum. People basically play it to the rules of it, if that makes sense. You don't add too much because it doesn't. I think there's a balance that you can reach, from what I gather. The problem is it's very hands off. Like, oh, if you give us anything, it will work. But you'll get the points. But I don't know. It's something I wanted to think about, because I'm actively trying and give my community a sense of, I may be giving a lot to them, but I also, like, as a wider community, I'm giving a lot to them as a whole, but as an individual, I'm not giving them an awful lot. And I'm trying to think, well, if I want to say, for example, I need more staff right now, how do I make that staff engaged? Like, how do I ensure that those people remain happy? And for people like the systems contributors, I'm trying to help them with, say, like, if they're helping me with some code stuff that we're doing internally with a system we're working on. Well, then, hey, I'll be their referee for their resume or whatever, saying, oh yeah, they contributed to the system and did this and that. But how do I apply that to people in moderation? How do I apply that to other places, you know?
Lovely.
I'm thinking more on a staff level for this rather than community-wide. But I guess it still somewhat applies.
Yeah, I think it absolutely applies. And we are working on that actively with Bridgemakers also. So maybe that can be some collaborative sharing and knowledge and wisdom that we're growing together. It's our helpers program and the 3-month cycle and all of that. So I'm looking forward to hearing if you're willing to share your updates on how it's going, and let's build a whole thread on this. What works, what doesn't, what are the paper cuts along the way? What's the opposite of paper cuts? That's a question that I'm walking away from.
Band-aids.
No, because that's the reparative, right? But if it's building something and it's not causing a slice, a pain, a flinch, what is that thing? Maybe it's heartbeats. I don't know.
Is pain not the original motivator?
From a primal perspective, yes.
Not to get too philosophical, but
what's the carrot version of, if the stick is the paper cut, unintentional though it might be, what's the carrot? All right. Did you get anything, Lau? Or do you just want your point for the day for coming? Joking, but
I'm still thinking.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that you moved from mildly disagree, to fully disagree. I love watching people get clear on their opinions, and that you moved out of neutral for that. You moved to your solidness. I'll be curious how that goes with your community as you build it. All right. Well, I think we've.
I'm so sorry.
We've got
I need to have a cricket soundboard.
Literally.
We've got a tier 1 question from Scott.
Oh yeah, I haven't been checking chat. What's the tier 1?
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Ooh, there you go. That's great.
That's actually a good one.
Okay. Maybe we'll replace the cakes one, because I don't know, or we'll do that for the following week. But I love the idea of having these statements that community members are coming up with. And again, it's not something where you're trying to get the litmus test of who agrees with me. The goal is to take on new perspectives and convince people that it is your opinion when it really isn't. But just to try it on for a little bit, understand what that feels like. So, okay. Well, glad you came dyslexic at the middle instead of the end. So that is amazing improvement. I'll give you a point for that.
I was only 20 minutes late. I was only 20 minutes late.
Okay, I'll give you 1.5 points for that. We're just going to joke about points now.
Okay.
And by any chance, did me tagging you in the Discord work?
Yes, no, that helped.
Okay, so there we go. So I'll give myself 10 points for literally spending 5 hours this morning getting ready for this event. And
oh my God.
Yeah, that's what it takes to kind of invest and get ready for these things when I don't have the world built that I can just type in the things and everything else. It's a lot of work.
Oof.
And to get the streaming set up and get the ticker tape up. Not sure if anybody saw our fancy ticker tape on YouTube, but I'm doing the opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Bridgemakers or anyone sharing them. I'm putting that disclaimer there so that if we do get into controversial topics, that will be on the video footage of anybody who is sharing anything. I want us to be able to say what we need to say, but also not be assumed that it's what we actually believe. So.
Yeah, I don't believe any of this is
Welcome to
the entire time.
Nice. You're like, I think that would be a hilarious reveal at the end and be like, okay, now everybody go to the line of what you really think.
Okay, before the event, you just DM one individual and tell them, right, you're the imposter,
Nice.
and I want you to pick the opposite of how you feel each time, and then just go.
That's
do a
interesting.
complete
See,
180 at the
this is
end.
a game. I like that. I will pick off of the RSVP list the person who needs to pick their opposite opinion. And then I might not even know if they got that DM. And so I could be thinking that that's their opposite opinion and they don't even know. That's a really good idea. At least
It's
one
gonna
amongst
make a
us.
new nightmare.
A new nightmare. I was like, too complicated.
Yeah.
I will say at least one amongst us does not actually believe what they're going to argue today. At the end, we're going to see who we think that is. And the person who is the imposter arguing against their belief, but if we don't know it by the end, if we can't pick them, then they get double the points for today. And there we
No, they got all of our points.
Oh.
Add some stakes to it.
That's an Among Us kind of vibe, or a murder.
Here's another idea. If they convince everyone to get onto their line.
Oh, that's even more interesting. Ideally, it would
they can fight for something they don't even believe in.
Yeah, no, then they win everybody's points if they convinced everybody over to their side and they're like, suckers, I actually believe that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Steal the points of whoever they convince.
Ah, wow. There's so many ways we could get really playful here. And that sense of going, okay, I'm going to be more clever than the actual pain that we're going through, I think can help us do painful things. Because it's for a bigger win, basically. And again, think about each of us as representing 1,000 people in social VR who will one day walk this path and say, I don't even know how to think about this area. I don't even know what to say about this. I just feel completely paralyzed and frozen and shut down inside when I look at that. And if they came across this video discussing this area, they would have a lot more flow with where they were going to go and what they were going to say about that. Yeah, it's lovely. Thank you. Thank you each for coming. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'll say it different today. I will give you the first points of Bridge Makers. I think I've stayed pretty solid on agree. First points of Bridge Makers, if you please go RSVP for next week's event. It's going to be a little messy in the beginning, but...
Well, welcome to Whose Bridge Is It Anyway, where the points don't matter.
Where the points matter in mysterious ways. Let's just say it like that. I mean, eventually, I think we have some hilarious, weird quotes already out of this community. Eventually, I think there could be a meme store where if you get like 1,000 points, you get a t-shirt that has your favorite meme in the Bridgemaker store on it. And we could do silly things.
The quotes channel, and that quotes channel you get to pick. Or you get like the one of your quotes out of there or something, your most popular quote.
Could be, yeah. I want to make sure that we're not perpetuating toxic statements, so it wouldn't just be your favorite meme. It would be a Bridgemaker's approved meme of sorts. But yeah.
So I guess multi-level bridge making's not in the.
You mean adding crypto to it and everything, or just? Yeah. No, crypto is not even a debate for bridge makers. As long as I'm part of it, that's not going to be on the table. But it doesn't mean I don't agree with some of the ideas and intentionality behind it. I just don't want to touch that with a 100-foot pole for our community. So, Okay, well, let's wave at our live stream audience of 2. We have 2 people watching us. So everybody wave. And then we should probably grab a photo. You can't wave? Oh.
Hold on, I'm trying to find the emoji.
Is there an emoji wave?
It's hard work navigating the wheel.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
This is
really is. Like, you have to do like 5 clicks to get to where you want.
Gosh, talk about paper
1,
cuts.
2,
Feedback
3,
for
4.
via chat.
If I want to get my custom emoji.
Yeah.
My stickers, it's 5.
Wow.
6.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot of clicks. I also have those clicks, but I have a joystick that has drift, so you never know what's going to come out when I select my custom stickers. Good times. Well,
I actually think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's more buttons in the radial menu than there is in the actual menu, like at any given moment.
Yeah, true. There are a lot of options there. Well, this was delightful, and now I do not have to bear the guilt of editing videos because it's just on YouTube in our library. We can cut out the beginning or the end if we so choose, but the video itself is now just available for the world to see some bridge makers troubleshooting gamification. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully, for those of you who are helping, we have our helpers check-in a couple hours, and then we have our event tonight, sort of, in about 4.5 hours. So please RSVP. See you later. You will.